What is going on, everyone? This is Robbie here, back on Gemmy Master Animatronics, and this is going to be the start of hopefully a successful restoration on this Gemmy 2006 animated prototype crawling brain. So this item has been through quite a bit over the years, and within that time, you can probably see down here, there is absolutely nothing in here. So the mouth mech is gone, or at least the original one is gone. The gearbox over time, it was yellowed, and after a while, it completely crumbled into a million pieces. And unfortunately, that was when I received it, is when it decided to crumble into a million pieces. So I've been trying to figure out some sort of fix for a long time. I've tried different mechanisms. I've tried one of these, actually. This came from a produced crawling brain. This is my last spare mechanism, because essentially the original mech is a very modified version of this. So I'm gonna give it one more shot before giving up, and I guess if I upload this video, then you'll know it was a success. So here's the mech here. I had to drill a little bit through this screw holder so that I don't know if you could see it right down there, that pin could slide in to that piece. But yeah, I'm gonna get the wires connected first. And I believe the original motor, let me find it here. I don't know what I did with it. Oh, it's back here. Original motor was this size, but I'm gonna try with this size first and see if it functions. I'm sure it won't because of how small the motor is. It's literally one of those micro motors. So if that doesn't work, if that's not strong enough, I'm gonna have to cut out this whole top part and glue this in. And you can see I have to fix that too. But this is a good motor. Anyway, I just got my iron fired up. So without further ado, I'm going to get these wires connected. And from there, I will update as I go along. Alrighty folks, here's an update of the crawling brain. This is day number 2, actually scratch that, day number 3 of working on this thing. I've been starting to make some custom stopper pieces because if you saw in the other clip, the shaft piece was kind of just going around crazily. It had no point of stopping at all, and it'll get to a point where if I don't have stoppers, if it's connected, and trust me, I've tried this before with the other mechanism, and this is probably why it broke, because on the first produced crawling brain mouth mech that I utilized, I didn't put any stoppers on it initially, and I was testing it and fooling around with it. And it got to a point where some of the gears were losing teeth because it just kept trying to spin and it had no point of stopping. So this more or less is very, very important to have. And I'm waiting for this to dry, and then I have to do one last one. Oops, didn't mean to push it. But anyway, I have to wait for this to dry. I'm using some nice crazy glue. This is something I recommend to anyone needing to glue something, especially with parts like this that are resin. In this case, I'm using it for plastic, but actually, something I neglected to mention is that when I first got this, you can kind of see it still, but this whole inner shell was cracked all over the place. It was like really bad. So I used this exact glue and it's holding up great. So if you need a specific type of glue, I definitely recommend trying this out. This is the fine tip crazy glue. It sets really fast. It's very, very strong. And yeah, just overall really great product. Anyway, I'm going to let this dry. In the meantime, I want to give one last little detail that I didn't mention before. So you could probably tell that there is a lot of paint loss. And you might be wondering, why is there so much paint loss? Well, to answer that question, this is a terrible design. Not just the mechanics, but the brain itself is awful. Now, you might be wondering, why are you saying that? That's a little harsh. Well, the way this was made, right, you can see under here, this is a soft PVC mold, and over it, they did a thin layer of latex, which is just so strange. I mean, I guess it makes sense because this is, you know, it's a pretty early prototype, but I mean, it's just awful. And you could imagine that over the years, especially when shipping this thing around, it's bumping all over the place. It's been through many different collectors. It's going to lose that thin layer of latex. And once it starts to chip, it spreads. And trust me, I know from experience that, you know, several areas back here, especially when I was working on it, like right here, it flakes and it spreads and it's really terrible. So it's unfortunate because, you know, when this was reviewed for the first time on GMA, it was reviewed by the Gemmy fan, and it looked much better. There was barely any paint loss on it. There was a bit, but it wasn't anything too crazy. But fast forward to 2025, and this is the current state of it. So eventually, I'm going to try and figure out a way to fix it. But for right now, it is what it is. I'm more or less just focusing on the mechanical side of it and the electrical side of it. I guess I'll explain a few more repairs I did to this when I initially got it and over time, because this thing has been through a lot. And I know I mentioned that earlier in the video, but I mean, this really has gone through a lot, especially since I've gotten it. Within that time, let's see, firstly, I cleaned the contacts. I guess you could call it the leaf spring contact was almost completely decimated. It was just covered in corrosion. It definitely doesn't look perfect, but it looks a hell of a lot better than how it originally looked. And I'll, you know, show you that. Yeah, it's on this side. You can see still a little bit. It's kind of hard to pick up on camera, but there's still a tiny bit of blue. But I mean, that's the best it's going to get. I also had to fix this right here because over time, it decided to crumble into a million pieces. It's a common theme with this thing. So I had to kind of take that piece. I broke off the ends and I glued it, and then I realized it was too big. It was sticking out too far, so the battery couldn't go in and it couldn't come out. So I used the tip of my soldering iron and I just very carefully melted it to where it still acts as a stopper, but it doesn't prevent the batteries from going in and coming out. So now one last detail. Besides, you know, I rewired everything. There was a bunch of wires off when I got it. And that's mainly due to corrosion. It was very unfortunate because this has been worked on. It's just one of those things where even if a couple of things were replaced, there's still so many different things that could go wrong with this. Anyways, besides that, you can kind of tell on camera, it's a lot more obvious in person, especially you can see right here. You might be wondering, why is it blue? Well, before I owned this piece, I'm not sure who exactly did this, but there was this really gross blue colored grease. Like these two like the original mouth mech and the crawling mech were completely covered in this really disgusting blue colored. I honestly, it didn't even feel like grease. It felt like goop. It just looked terrible. And it was like gumming up the mech completely. So I had to take this apart and clean it and add my own grease, which reminds me I need to buy more of it. But anyway, that's besides the point. I added fresh new grease, and this works so much better. It's a lot quieter. It definitely still is loud, just due to the fact that this mechanism is very thrown together. It's a very early design. This is actually driven by a worm gear. It's not even belt driven or anything, which could explain why it's so loud. But the thing with the mouth mech was it was already starting to fall apart, and there was this like hole, like literally a chunk of the gearbox was like completely crumbled already. Like it could still function, but I stuck a Q-tip in there and I was slowly trying to get out that really gross blue goop. And in the process of that, the entire gearbox just decided to crumble. And honestly, if I have a picture or a video, I will show it. I will include it in this video. The original mouth mech gearbox was so yellowed. It was like, without a doubt, the most yellowed gearbox I personally have ever encountered. And it was so yellowed that it crumbled in my hand, and it was like the consistency of sand. It was really, really bad. And believe me, I tried to piece all of the broken parts back together. It just really did not work in the end. And from there, I unfortunately had to scrap it completely. Anyways, that's enough of me ranting and talking about the repairs that I've done to this already. But yeah, I will continue to update as I go along. Well, folks, here it is. I know I said before that I was going to update as I went along with the repair process, but due to the sheer amount of pain and suffering that I went through while repairing this, I felt it was best to finish the rest of the repair off camera. Now, this was an absolute just nightmare. And finally, it is fully restored, mechanically and electronically speaking. Now, cosmetically, eventually, like I said, I'm gonna try to find some sort of way to patch up those areas where the thin latex has started to flake off. But in the meantime, I'm certainly not complaining. But yeah, I'll show you the bottom here. So you get the label. Sorry, it's peeling up a little bit here. Item number M27843. Animated crawling brain with mouth. And this was, I guess, shown in the showroom. That's what I think these barcode labels are for, but I could be wrong. It was shown on the 8th of February, 2006. It's got a QC Pass sticker right there, and under this label is an actual factory prototype label. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this item. I hope that you all enjoyed the repair, and I again apologize. I would have filmed the rest of it, but for one, it really wasn't interesting, and two, it was just really frustrating. So yeah, I just felt like it was best to do it off camera. But yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna flip the switch and I will show you it in action. Here we go. Alrighty, I think that is all of the phrases, I guess you could call them. So yeah, I hope that you'll enjoy this video, and I will see you in the next one.